Chris said he's gonna be a few minutes late. He had cold car trouble.
Who was that?
Chris.
Oh, wait, I assume Dave won't be here.
Correct.
Was Dave Boucher going to do that?
Yeah. I'll get a couple of, see if Chris.
So you're, let me get the street, carry a
He's got both ends.
I had a different
Have
outfit
your
on
handkerchief,
before I
that got me the last
went
thing,
to the
last
office,
thing she said to me on the way out.
Like I took the dogs
These guys
down to
always
the,
make fun
to the
of me.
basement to put them in
My
kennels, I'm
mom
like,
used to tie a quarter and a dime.
Oh, that's me.
oh, it's us, oh, like, all out, like,
That's where
just,
my lunch
yeah,
money was.
all over, it's like, okay, everyone's
Every day,
together.
35 cents.
Hurry up.
That would get you hot.
So I called my mom, and I'm like, will you please just go get it,
So-
just go
I
get
don't use it
Put
much,
in a tub.
only in
But-
emergency. I still have to have one. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's versatile too. It's also versatile in New York. I forgot to ask, and there's certain, like I went to the hardware store the other day, I'm New York,
I'm
and
sorry,
they
I'm
made
sorry,
me.
I'm sorry.
That's sufficient.
No, other than
And
some.
you might be covered in
For
poop
the
too.
moment,
Right,
like-
today.
Right, it's
If
just, and when I
Park
picked them up
and
yesterday, they're like, oh, well, yeah, we
And I said, how'd
it's
that go?
fine.
He just shook his
Well,
head.
part of
and
this
it's-
deer thing, they're gonna allow this deer thing
It's-
to come up.
Thanks
You
for
just
telling me
make
that
me
now.
I'm crazy.
Yeah.
Well, they made capitalized deer with it.
Yes, that's what.
Fried stuff, you should just put it on it.
I like
Yeah.
Ellen told me that.
No, it's all my fault. I sold the house, the original house. First put down.
Yeah, so, I mean, every night he's up
She
at
tore
like
it
10
down.
o'clock screaming.
The guy that owned the house before her,
And
might
it's
have
like-
been even worse than her though. Climber. He was a doctor.
Yeah,
And he was just,
and he's been getting 2 baths a night, like he gets another bath at
I
10:30
used to
every
go to his
night.
house, have a cup of coffee.
Because
probably
it's the
helping.
easiest for me just to rinse him with water.
Hold him in the sink and
Yeah,
spray.
I just throw him in the tub and it's just warm
And all of a
water
sudden,
and
Jim would come in the yard.
at first you won't even let
Jump
the
up
water
and
touch
he
him
had
like it's that bad.
22 planks in it.
Okay, quick,
Started-
okay, quick.
He'd go out and start shooting.
I know, I know.
It's not antibiotics.
How much is
Yeah, yeah, so they gave us some amoxicillin for his ears. I'm hoping it's a full round recovery everywhere, like I'm hoping it
How's that
helps
house sound?
The other end.
with the other end too, or whatever virus he's got going
Oh,
on.
it sure is.
It's just a nonstop shop. I mean, really,
When you look at the
what would you
pictures
expect
though, when I
for
looked at
daycares
when it
right
first came
now?
out,
It's just,
it
I
came
think,
up with
I
so
would think
like
like for
that.
your first 6 to 8
Doesn't seem
months
like
being
it flows
in
through. It
daycare,
does look like
you
it's
get
chopped
all
up.
of it. So he's gonna be the most immune
Yeah.
child.
Oh, yeah,
ever.
sure.
By
Oh, yeah.
the summer.
right, I mean, I've
Or
been saying,
Fido, it's always
But
like
by
summer.
modern standards,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
for his open
and like,
areas.
there's no, the minute he gets over it, it starts up again. I mean, I'm sending like 2 or 3 long sleeve shirts a day because of how bad his nose is running.
Which is
And
what I
yet you
told
still
Al
only do
Mayer,
live
I
once a week. I don't
deer.
understand this.
Al,
I
do you think
have about
anybody
4
really
weeks of
feels
clothing
sorry
for
you to
him.
live in one of the
I can make it 4 weeks.
Best locations in Wyoming.
You never know when stuff's gonna go wrong and you just chuck it and it's just, yep, that's not worth going in my washer. I'm gonna have to wash my washer after that.
Eric Miller had Lentz.
I mean, really, Walmart has $3 sweatpants. Take all the sweatpants.
So I had the excitement of getting grounded on
I
my.
know that firsthand.
And he,
But
What do you got hurt?
because there's
never
a
know.
foot-long massive hitch on the back. I was just sitting there laughing because I'm sitting at the light in Waterville at TV,
Yeah.
and I was stopped. The car had been going like 3 miles an hour, but I heard this boom, and I'm like, "Hey, Chris." I just started laughing. I was thinking your bumper is going to be messed up.
Oh.
And I pull over, I get out, and I
Car
look
didn't want to get going this
at
morning?
the giant ball indent in his bumper, and I'm like, "Yep, I'm good. Enjoy that. Bye."
Have a good night.
And then this morning on
It was-
Brownsville,
This is the
the
nicest
truck in front of me
property.
suddenly like swerved, and I see this thing go off, and I'm like, "Please tell me I'm not seeing animals."
This is the nicest.
There was a trash bag, but
Nicest community.
my heart was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, oh
There's
my
only
God."
one reason you're able to buy this place.
Okay,
And he said,
we'll,
what's that? I said, because I can't afford to.
call the meeting of Economic Development Committee to order. And roll call, please.
Steve Brunner,
Here.
Dave Boucher will be absent today. Fred Levery,
Here.
Bill Jenks,
Here.
Keith Durr.
Here.
Okay, first item will be reorganizing, and I entertain a motion for chairperson.
Nominate Fred Lever.
Second.
We have a proposal and second for Fred. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations, Fred, you have an increase in your paycheck.
Yes.
Yeah. Take it over.
The train can't be on the agenda after.
Hey. That's a key.
Quarterly.
Well, thank you. We will start with our normal agenda then, public comments. Anybody?
No.
Thank you. Michelle has sent out a publication from the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission that I had come across. They have a pretty decent website that maybe we ought to give everybody that connection. But they, their territory, the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission comes up to include all of Montgomery County. But it doesn't come into Berks. But we've had conversations with these folks for many years. When one of the iterations of the train to Philly thing was a concept to do tolling 422, and they led the charge on that thing. That became a priority project for the Philadelphia Chamber and that whole area. They envisioned the 422 corridor to become like a Silicon Valley East. And eventually the wheels fall off that, interestingly, because the people they were trying to attract said it was too difficult to get to the Philadelphia airport. That it wasn't easy. I mean, you look at a map, it doesn't look so bad, but the traffic you deal with and so on. And there was a lot of problems that came out of, at the same time, out of Harrisburg. At the same time, there was Governor Corbett was trying to figure out ways to fund PennDOT better. And they had a commission set up. And one of the things they wanted to look at, they wanted to look at all facets. And he said, well, how about tolling? Let's talk about that. Well, is there anybody around the state that's doing anything? Well, I think those people over there outside of Philadelphia are trying to do something with 422. Let's have them come in and talk to us. Public meeting. So they go in and start talking about this in a public meeting before we were ready to roll it out to the public with sales pitch and all that. And of course, everybody's down here, they're here on fire now, that they're gonna have to pay toll to use 422. Roads ought to be free, which none road is free. Nevertheless, it got crazy, and then the legislators start doing the populist thing, jumping on, and it died. During the course of that, I got to know some of those people down there, and DRVPC is a very good organization. It covers really metropolitan Philadelphia, and including Montgomery County, as I said. So they have a website, and on the website last month shows this article about the future of shopping malls, because they worry about those things. There's a bunch of malls around Philadelphia. We all have the kind of same problems that we are here. And so I read it, and I thought, well, I want to send this out to Michelle, and Michelle sent it out to our committee here, and she did. So have you had a chance to look at any of that stuff? I mean,
Yeah, I scanned through it.
Yeah, I know.
you know, I'll say that, you know, my take on it, and then I'll shut up, is basically, it isn't our job as a municipality to write anybody's business plan. That's up to them. Our job is to provide an environment where they can thrive in, where they're willing to take risks in this thing. So we're not in a position to be able to say, here's what we want you to do, mall. That ain't happening. And the current owners of the mall, what is it, Namco?
Namdar,
Nambar. Nandar are from, I think, Long Island, New York, or somewhere outside of New York.
correct.
And they basically are principally funded by folks from Israel. Israel, you wake up every morning at 9 what's going on. They're always sleeping with one eye open over there. And they look for a safe haven, a place they can park their money. safe. American real estate is considered as safe as it gets. So they put their money into things like this, and they don't really, their focus, it's not that they're opposed to it, their focus isn't on improvement and making it better, getting creative and all that stuff. They just ride it out.
But their valuation continues to decline based on the ever decline. What they pay for it?
Ooh.
Not a lot. It was something like,
Under 30, I think.
yeah, not as much as you might think.
Yeah.
But in any event, that location, you're at the intersection of 222 and 422, so I mean, it's, while they haven't improved the property, in fact, every time I go over there, it seems like the waste cans are filling. But it's a different world in retail, with Amazon and now, Internet and all that. So this is just fodder to think about. Try to be creative. Michelle is in touch with them. Michelle, why don't you pick up the story here? Was what you most lately have been involved with?
I mean, the latest involvement is probably John Buccino coming to the last Economic Development Committee meeting to say that he's been contracted by NAMDAR to work on some of the long-term leasing, and he doesn't expect to see any type of movement really for potentially 3 to 5 years. I reached out to Kevin Timochenko because I continue to hear what apparently isn't a rumor, that he is under agreement with NAMDAR to purchase the Sears portion of the mall, which legally can't happen without a subdivision plan or a condo deck being recorded, neither of which have happened. And a subdivision plan would violate God knows how many sections of the zoning ordinance just to subdivide off the Sears piece. He supposedly is in an agreement with Joey Maturi from the Kia dealership to lease that piece to them.
Which dealership?
Kia.
Steve said.
Joey Maturi, who's I've been talking to.
Steve told me the same. Steve told me he has an agreement to lease it, and Timochenko has an agreement to buy it.
Joe said something to me.
So, I mean, there's that piece I'm kind of putting off to the side. To go back to this, I went through and actually, I mean, besides chapter 3, which is what I asked you to focus on, in chapter 2, they talk about repositioning and they give 11 options for different things malls can do. Interestingly enough, for incorporate new retail formats is what the former owners, Allied Properties, were proposing to do, which was basically flip all the entrances from interior to exterior, maybe knock down a few sections of the mall and put out parcels up to just kind of give it a different feel. Diversifying mall properties, one of the interesting things to me is they continue to get new tenants. There's a company called Clean Eats that's gonna be opening, they're going through fit out now in what was the Firehouse Subs location. They're based out of Lancaster. I don't know how many of you are familiar with like the Green Chefs, the Snap Kitchens of the world, but what they basically do is sell pre-packaged, healthy, nutritious meals that you can either have direct shipped to your house, or now you're gonna be able to pick up over at the mall. So it's interesting to me that there are still people interested in leasing space over there. I don't know if any of you have been in it recently. It's, I'm gonna say maybe at 50-60% occupancy. I see more people just walking it, I think, for health reasons than they're actually shopping. You know, they make points in here about a lot of malls have been repurposed into more of an entertainment destination than a retail shopping destination. Being that we already have the works, I don't know that we need Dave & Buster's around too. But, you know, if that were part of an overall redevelopment plan, I could see it working. There's points made in here about community facilities, libraries, churches, you know, educational opportunities, governmental offices. I wanted this committee and the borough in general to kind of look through this. Well, Fred is 100% right. We cannot go to NAMDAR or any future owner and say this is what we want to see you do. I think if we have some ideas, goals, and objectives laid out, we have a stronger argument as to why not only do our demographics support whatever that potential use would be, but, you know, hopefully encouraging them to convince whatever those uses we would like to see be a part of that redeveloped site in the future. The other piece to this, whether it's a redeveloped mall or it's a completely redeveloped site that has other mixed uses as part of it, access, not just vehicular, pedestrian, bicycle, and if the train ever comes, you know, access from wherever that train station is to this location would be extremely important, as well as to the surrounding community. Given the conversation we have with PennDOT on Monday at infrastructure, I get bike lanes are probably not gonna happen on State Hill Road, but I think pushing the piece about pedestrian connectivity is extremely important. And this also talks about recreation facilities and outdoor spaces. Is there something the borough would wanna see on that property that we could potentially put on an official map, and then the developer has no choice to some extent but to help create it? So there are a lot of options, there are a lot of things out of our control, but there are also a lot of options and things we could talk about and steps we could take, especially if any potential development is 3 to 5 years down the road.
It seems unfortunate that we can't just have some direct dialogue. You know, I mean, it sounds like you had a pretty good meeting originally when you and John met with them during the COVID height, you know, under the pavilion. And I guess after that, there's been no real one-on-one conversation.
And I think that goes back to Boscov's. And Boscov's has made their position very clear, and to some extent we should be grateful for that the site's not getting carved up piecemeal and losing its overall worth. But at the same time, that's also stopping small development, like small out parcel development. So it's a balance.
And I think with listening to those guys from PennDOT the other day, or contractors, if the mall would have any thought of doing anything before, you know, I would imagine they would put everything on hold until after the widening of State Hill Road would occur.
I would hope not. I mean,
But I would
that's a 10-year
suspect,
program.
I know, but I would suspect that's what's gonna happen.
That doesn't really impact them that much. I mean, it's just that one corner.
The road's not closed. But that does raise something I wish I asked the PennDOT guy, and that is, their design analysis, was that based on 2021 traffic counts, or was that based on, you know, a more historic traffic count? Because,
I believe 21, and I mean, the multiple pre-calls Jim McCarthy and I had with PennDOT to get to where they presented on Monday, we told them about potential redevelopment of the mall, not knowing when it's coming, what it's gonna look like, but that's something they needed to take into consideration, you know, whether it be a distribution center or a mixed-use site or educational, institutional, medical. Our hope is in the next 5 to 10 years, something would happen there, and they need to take that into consideration with their design.
On that subject, I spoke to Alan Piper yesterday. I was not able to go to the infrastructure meeting on Monday because of some real estate obligations. But I saw the plan, Michelle forwarded it to me, and was kind of shocked because I didn't expect it. It's not what I was looking for. I've been arguing, or not arguing, but encouraging Alan, I mean, it must be 15 years, that we needed a lane between Edmond Road and where it widens out in front of Starbucks. And then they came back to this. So I said, you know, I was always interested in that extra lane, so please, you know, can we expedite certain parts of it and take our time with the rest of it or something like that? And he said, look, it's gonna be phased for sure. He's thinking that the main body of where the traffic is one, and then two would be the interchange with the highway and all that stuff, and then up to Penn Avenue, which is, in my mind, crazy. But in any event, he thinks there is opportunity to do it with bite-sized pieces and keep it rolling. Interestingly, he's got their county transportation plan pretty well figured out, including where the money's coming from, you know, over time. He's got commitments and stuff for the West Shore bypass and for Division 222 toward Alpha. That was a Lehigh County project. So, I don't wanna talk stupid here, it's not like he's running out of projects or something like that, but this will become an important project for the county because they have done so much with these other things. And now this money in this most recent infrastructure bill is gonna go a long way toward getting bunch more bridges and stuff like that. They're gonna be replacing bridges out in the middle of nowhere. They're on the list, but not a priority. Now they're gonna get done. So, he gets it, and so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to do some sooner than later improvement on that. My concern all along with the mall has been, I just shudder at the idea of the piecemeal approach. You end up doing little things that make sense in the immediate time frame, but screw things up for the long-term big picture stuff. So I don't know. What else do you guys think? And keeping it in the context of the overall area, Minute Reading, all that stuff.
Well, what's happening with the West Mall? Weren't there new stores going in over there?
Two, and there's a potential they're gonna come back with a land development plan for a 30,000 square foot addition on the side where AC Moore was sometime in the next 2 to 3 years. I mean, the other thing to keep in mind, Fred and I have had this conversation individually. I see that whole area from State Hill Road down to the shops at White Missing out to Berkshire, that's our next redevelopment overlay. I mean, big box stores and what the future, I think we all know what the future holds for them. You know, I could see in 15, 20 years, you have one store for a 30-mile radius that you go to if you actually wanna see that article of clothing or furniture in person, but otherwise, you order online and it's shipped to your front door. So do we need all of that retail space? I mean, the shops at Wyomissing is at 50% occupancy right now.
That's what John Puccino said. He said it sounded like it may be mixed use and there may be some residential.
That, I would love to see a senior housing community over there.
That would be the perfect place for it.
Yes,
Where
the shops at Wyomissing.
the shops are missing.
The other piece to this is Kevin Timochenko also bought the Plaza Azteca, the not Makura,
Lobster.
no, not Red Lobster, the one across the street.
Tokyo.
Thank you.
Okay, hibachi.
And also, I think Longhorn. Those were all up for sale at the same time the mall was. And I kind of questioned him as to, you're not in the restaurant owner business, what are you doing? And he made it sound like for now they're profitable leases, which makes sense, but I would see long term, just knowing what he does for a living, wanting to do some type of residential somewhere. I've also heard he's trying to buy the mall property as a whole.
Have they started doing anything more with the renting, the
Crown Plaza.
share, whatever
I think that's
it's called now?
Crown Plaza,
Madison.
it's under fit out. I mean, they have approved permits.
He gets old, now.
Not by right. It's in his zoning district, residential's not permitted. So I mean, that's where I think we have some leverage, if we're working with him or anyone else, to say, you know, we're fine with residential being a portion, but we wanna see some type of mixed use site and not budging.
Yeah, for sure.
Wilson School is knocking down, of course. All the years they profited off of that, now they have more kids coming there because of it, now they have to build it. Oops,
Well, they're also not happy with me, so.
had that for the list, huh?
we will continue to keep close tabs on this thing, and we'll keep it on our agenda for sure, that anytime anybody's got any ideas and they come across something that looks like a concept that would be applicable somehow, please bring it here.
Until you get the owners to the table, it's not much you can do.
That's right.
Is Equus looking around for any projects that you're aware of? Are they active right now or not so much?
They are. It's funny. I talked to George the week before I was on vacation, and Kevin actually emailed me last night that we were playing phone tag. They want us to buy the island over at the Knitting Mills, which I mean would be to our benefit if the train ever came, that we'd have that under ownership in terms of a station, but obviously not something in our Longview plan at the moment to take on additional land. But they'd love to buy the Inn at Reading, they'd love to buy the Berkshire Mall, they'd love to buy a bunch of other sites, and TJ Doyle and Mark Pelicata from TP Partners, who were here at the November meeting, emailed Fred and I think it was Monday, Tuesday of this week, to say that, I can't think of the gentleman's name now, that was with Jackson Crossing, which is who the hospital was using for some of their projects. He's now working with them, and same thing, even if the North Park Road site doesn't work out, they're very much aware that the borough is open for business and would like to find another location here to be able to do something in. I know last time George Haynes and I spoke about the mall, which, this is going back probably 3, 4, 5 months, he was still digging into how Namdar purchased the property and how much they actually paid for it. His original dollar amount that he thought they paid for it, he must have saw something in research that he was doing that made him think they actually paid less for it, that he was trying to come up with a dollar figure above that they'd be willing to accept if Equus purchased it, but it's months later and I've not heard anything, so.
Well, did you all see the newspaper this morning? At one point, there was talk about the Reading Public Museum moving, and that was one of the spots near the island that they were thinking of as a partnership thing with Equus. That apparently is now dead or ignored now. Judge has ruled that they gotta stay where they are, whether they like it or not.
I think it's in favor, yeah. So there is the school district, did they find some new organization, or are they gonna stay with the current organization?
It's basically current stuff, but the Judge Feuderman,
They would like to move this stuff out of the building.
that they can't relocate the collection, even the part that they were gonna put into storage.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So that changes that a great deal.
That's good and bad, because I'd hate to see what happened to that property if the museum wasn't there.
Especially because apparently there's a deed restriction on it.
Yeah, I saw that in the article. It's funny you said, did you read the paper this morning? I read that last night on the online where it came across, so I forget what today's paper looks like.
It's obvious that.
Well, I know, I get it every, I get it every day, and I usually just take it from there to the recycling bin. But I did see that it has to be used for museum or whatever, that,
Passive recreation, museum, institutional,
Right.
educational.
unless they're gonna make it a big park, which would be really cool, but I don't think that's what the school district's gonna do.
Well, if you do subscribe to the paper and you haven't yet recycled it, I promised Michelle I was gonna give her that real estate business supplement that was in Tuesday's paper, but it got recycled before I was able to.
I'm pulling it up right now.
No, I still have that.
Well, if you have it, please bring it down and give it, there it is.
Yeah.
There's really not a great deal about why missing other than that nice picture and stuff.
He does make the point, 2 of our projects, hold on. 2 of our projects are actually the first mentioned, Stratix and Drexel University College of Medicine, both mentioned right here. They do talk about the new Tower Health facility that opened in Wyomissing, and then they don't tell us anything shocking otherwise. But I thought this point, you know, as a developer, real estate investor, you're putting these deals together on the front end. It's very hard for a developer to negotiate a lease up front, knowing, you know, actual construction won't be finished for anywhere from 18 to 36 months. I think that goes back to the importance of how quick our approval process is and working with developers. Well, no, we have no say in, you know, the material shortage or the supply chain or what actually happens once construction starts. Anything we can do to help the developer get through the approval process that they can break ground and start construction sooner rather than later is money in their pocket. And there's not, from the developers I talk to, there's not a lot of municipalities that approach it that way and continue to be hurdles instead of assisting, especially outside of Berks County and especially down towards the Philadelphia area. So,
I was thinking of, you know, other kinds of projects that could fit over here, and one that was talked about a couple of years ago was a velodrome, and then it became a Albright College City Reading project. Is anything happening with that?
they never got their federal funding. So they had so much money privately and they needed so much money from the federal government and they've never gotten it because I actually signed up for their email updates and continue to get them.
It's gonna be behind the wall over at 11th Street.
Yep,
Yeah.
which is a stupid place to put it because, I mean, in theory, you'd want a bike-friendly location.
It's not it.
But before
No.
that,
That's
they
not
were-
it.
before that, they wanted to put it where the medical school is.
Yeah, that was the original location.
Uh,
They were looking the federal funding they were looking to get, and I don't even know that it was funding so much as a tax credit, there were very specific locations. So obviously the city of Reading worked for that. Along those lines, I have a call, I think at 10:30 this morning with John Buccino. He reached out to me last week when I was away about a potential medical nursing home use in the RD2 overlay district, which is not where it's permitted by right for the new overlay regulations. It's only in RD3, which is the inn at Reading. So my comment to him was, the medical use would be permitted by right, nursing home not. Let's talk, let me hear more about the project. If I think it's something that's viable and a borough would be interested in, my next step would be to invite him to next month's meeting, that we can talk through it and see about maybe tweaking something to allow that project to happen.
You know, the Highlands seems to me to be practically built out.
They will be after that apartment.
Are they looking for any more land? Are they looking for another campus? Did they mention anything about that?
No, I mean, I can put some feelers out. Jim Babb and I have a meeting tomorrow actually with their facilities director regarding the sidewalk we're requiring them to put in along Cambridge. But no, I've not heard anything.
You don't have much land left over there.
No, I think they squeezed it as hard as they can.
How many are going into that barn? 4?
5.
It's gonna be a pretty cool building.
So with that conversion of that barn, is that pretty much it?
No, they're on the agenda for the February planning commission meeting for 56 apartment. I mean, there's 2 apartment buildings totaling, I think it's like 63, 64 units. We're not the issue, the sewer line with Spring Township's the issue. Spring's not currently accepting any more flows and they're in the process of having to upgrade their pipe. So till Spring figures out that end of it, we can give them conditional plan approval, but they can't actually do anything, so they're gonna have to do a
And
planning
where
memo.
would this proposed building be?
Off of Braid.
Where?
So like you come in the main drive, I gotta reorient myself.
Which one?
It's close to the.
Actually, let me just show you the plan. That's probably easier. And it's not one building front, it's 2.
It would be on the left side as you're driving.
What street?
So here's your main drive, go off of both with underground parking.
Well, I'm telling you, don't discount that comment. They'll be convinced that they'll go end up in their backyard, and that's where they're
Who? I missed that comment. Oh. Yeah, deer. So I mean, that only nets them plus or minus, let's say 60 units. But after that, yeah, they're pretty much built out. I
That's over
mean,
by that hill there, there's a hill over there.
so, yeah, the barn is
Yeah,
down
right
here.
at.
No, no,
Down
further
there.
up, I think.
It's up in the upper right-hand corner
Yep.
against the.
Yeah, further up.
Put your arrow on the barn.
Hold on, I gotta blow it up.
Right there to the right. Right there.
Oh, there.
That one.
Okay.
Which one's the barn?
Right
The
here.
one's the
The one that says
of the
barn.
house.
What is it?
Well, you can look that up
That's
quick,
it.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, nothing gets
We
me.
we are lucky to have him on this
Nothing
board.
gets
Aren't you glad I got on this guy? I don't know which way north and south is yet.
North is that way, south is that
Yeah, I
way.
just used Penn Avenue, that was east-west, I can, so I can go from there. Jesus.
I'll take it to the woods.
Give him a
You
concept.
don't wanna do that. Farmer's market, that's as far as I go.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that barn was nice.
To go back to the DVRPC publication and the demographic information I sent out from the 2018 JCP update, I did want to point out it's not in here, but I remember seeing it as part of the committee when we were meeting to update this. Besides the housing values, there was also median income values, and that I think may be an important number to be able to share with the developer in the future, not just for Wyomissing, but also for the surrounding communities. So I should easily be able to get that information, both based off the supposed to be released soon updated census data and what the county has.
What's going on at the end of Redding? Do you feel like they're stabilized? Or,
I got a call from owner, partner, whatever he is, Sushil, in December. And he's like, do you remember when we talked, you told me like I could do some type of, what did he call it? I forget what he called it and it wasn't correct and I said, no, I said you could do some type of retirement community because that is within the redevelopment area 3 where it's permitted by right. And he said, can you send me the regulations for that? And I said, sure. So I emailed them over to him and I just said, to be clear, this would have to go through land development, there'd have to be an approved plan. He goes, oh, I know, we have to get the attorneys involved. I'm like, well, it's a little bit more than that. But I think he may have taken that back to his other partners. They had talked about opening a second hotel chain there, which I had no idea how that was gonna work. You're gonna have two aside of each other, and you know, we made it clear to them, depending on your separation, not only do you need a building permit, you potentially need land development, and we never heard anything further. That conversation only happened in November, so.
Looking at the police report, it looks like that has really calmed down there
Yes.
for a while.
It has, yeah.
Peppa the
5
pig
days.
is gone,
Now,
unfortunately.
once every couple of days.
There's a pig living there, she's left,
There's a pig living there?
was.
Reserve comment on that.
An actual swine pig, yes. She is gone, and based off the reports Crafts gives me, I know they were gonna follow up again, like end of January, so we're about now. They did actually do a really good job of cleaning up that one particular wing.
Building 3.
I
Building 3, whatever.
think it's the D wing.
They fixed the sign yet?
They have
No.
a permit for it though, which is a
They've had a
stuff.
permit forever.
No, actually not the correct permit.
Oh.
Another one of these using, taking as much time as they can within the law.
What about the, was it CBS who was interested in Berkshire Mall?
Wawa, some chicken place, Aldi's, and I forget who the drugstore was.
So the mobiles they took them all.
Yeah.
So nothing really,
Well, now they're really not gonna sell us, they're gonna get half that property cut off.
Yeah. But on the plus side, the mobile station might finally come down.
wouldn't that be shocking?
Is there tanks in the ground there?
No,
There.
they're-
All right, we've touched on a couple of items of old business. Does anybody have anything else?
But yeah, just, the new president of West Reading Council called me yesterday morning. I guess Dean had spoken to you, and, I've never met this guy. He just called me out of the blue, and, you know, since John is out of commission for the time being, wanted to get together with me, thinks we can do some things together. One of them being promoting the two municipalities, because as John has said before, you know, you got 3 pages of Lancaster County and a half a page of Berks County. And it doesn't seem like any justice is being done in promoting the 2 areas specifically. And one of the things he wanted to talk to me about was just see if we would start considering doing something together, promoting our communities. So I'm gonna have breakfast with him next Tuesday morning.
Okay. Mark Radcliffe and I just set up a happy hour date for the end of February, so we try to touch base every 2 to 3 months.
You know, that makes me think of the hotel assessment that the borough approved. And I don't know if they've received much revenue yet from that, but it could be a potential topic for presentation at this committee, an update from the Visitors Bureau, or whatever they call themselves now, about, you know, what they're doing with that hotel money.
I can reach out to Crystal if my memory serves me, which it may not. I wanna say end of 2020, they had 160,000 in additional revenue from that, which given that that was COVID, like the peak of COVID and people not going anywhere, was actually pretty impressive.
Because the purpose of that money was to do exactly what you're describing, was to promote the county as a place to visit and do business.
Who controls those funds?
What is their creator, no, the Berks,
Americana.
something, yes.
Something.
But that's that additional tax that all the hotels within that area had to agree to. I can ask Crystal if she'd be able to come to the February meeting.
Well, again, I think if she has anything interesting to report, it would be nice to hear about.
You would think that the hotels would like to know what's going on.
She has, I believe, quarterly meetings with them.
Anybody have any other old business?
I have an objection, if I may, that again, the agenda refers to the publication, but there was no publication attached. So for the purpose of a healthy conversation, I don't think there's a problem attaching a publication so that the public would know, okay, what we're talking about, so we can produce some meaningful public comment. Because, I mean, yeah, I just Googled it now, but that doesn't help. So I don't think in a situation like this, an agenda that has no meat to it, it's pointless. So I think that we can do better there. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I found the article quite quickly prior to the meeting. I Googled it, found the article, read it. It was easy to access.
Thank you for that, but wouldn't that also be copyright infringement since we didn't publish the article?
I mean, we could provide a link, is it?
Or a link or something,
Is there a link?
Yeah, because it is, there are many things that, when you Google that, you get many things. So exactly where chapter 3, what I found had no chapter 3, but it was about the subject, so.
I didn't see anything that was really shockingly new. I mean, I think, ever since we did our plan for this neighborhood, we've been talking about a lot of these issues and part of that strategic planning discussion.
All right, well, we'll do what we can within the limits of the rules. Does anybody have any further new business to bring before us this morning? Our next meeting, do you have anything in mind as to what we're gonna, any topics or anything like that?
Possibly.
Visitors or anything?
Possibly John Buccino coming in, depending how my phone call goes this
It's
morning.
always interesting when he shows up.
Yeah. And also apparently now possibly Crystal Sites.
That's a good one.
Crystal Sites.
All right, well then we will adjourn the meeting. Now, I would like to ask for a brief litigation-focused executive session.
Do we have to amend the agenda to do that, Chris?
Not, should have the executive session, but if we come back and there's anything to be discussed.
No, there won't.
Later on in the agenda.
We will only come back when the record is adjourned. And you thank you.
May we know which litigation, because the law actually requires a specific specificity in this matter, because litigation is broad.
Chris?
Is this regarding charter school or something else?
It would be tied to that. Yes, that would be the specific.
Well, there, the property across the street has been acquired by a charter school, and there are some legal issues that have been raised about.
Across the street, I'm sorry.
1001 Penn Avenue.
Oh, okay.
There have been some legal issues raised about the use of that property.
Okay, that's fair enough.
For the finance committee meeting next week, we did those salary adjustments that had to be approved by finance. And I was thinking about, I think the finance committee probably only has to approve the reallocation of funds off the budget as opposed to the individual recommendations by personnel. So would it be sufficient to just send out what Michelle's recommendation copy from Edwards, which is the specific adjustments, send those to the committee?
I only sent that to you and Steve, but I can send it to Chris.
And then just,
Well, this
not
is,
as executive
that's
session, but
another
just
committee.
as part of the
Yeah.
general meeting, just say, we're gonna approve the adjustments, reallocation,
We should have an agenda item.
but should it be an